Hello and welcome to UGCE Pathshala. I am Dr. Swikar Lama, Assistant Professor in Criminology and Police Studies at Sardar Patel University of Police Security and Criminal Justice, Jodhpur. I am going to present the module on primary prevention, neighborhood level crime and the fear of crime, displacement and diffusion, secondary prevention. The learning outcomes of this module are to make the learners understand the concepts of primary prevention, neighborhood level crime and the fear of crime, displacement and diffusion and secondary prevention. To make the learners understand about various forms of primary prevention, neighborhood level crime, displacement and diffusion, secondary prevention. To familiarize the learners with various methods to reduce fear of crime. The words crime prevention typically brings to mind programs that are divorced from the formal criminal justice system and are greatly reliant upon the efforts of the citizenry. Such crime prevention efforts typically fall under the rubric of primary prevention. Primary prevention deals with eliminating influences in the physical and social environment that engender deviant behavior. Such programs do not target individuals who are already criminal or prone to criminal behavior, except in a most indirect sense. Instead, primary prevention programs work with general physical and societal factors that provide the opportunity for deviance to occur. The chapters reflect varying methods aimed at removing or mitigating the criminogenic suspects of society. Now let us talk about primary crime prevention. Crime prevention is usually described by the medical model. Primary, secondary and tertiary crime prevention models all involve some level of community involvement. However, each type of prevention focuses on a specific developmental stage of crime. Primary prevention addresses the conditions in the natural environment that may lead to the developmental and prevalence of crime. Lack of street maintenance, broken windows, abandoned buildings and broken down cars are a few examples of a disorganized community. Primary prevention seeks to directly alleviate these factors that may lead to crime. One type of primary prevention is that of neighborhood crime prevention. By addressing the factors that may lead to crime, neighborhood crime prevention affects the fear and perception of crime as well as the actual prevalence of crime. If members of the community are participating in crime prevention, their perception and fear of crime may reduce. There are many different approaches to neighborhood crime prevention. The attempt is to establish a cohesive and socially aware community where crime cannot flourish. Some examples of neighborhood crime prevention are neighborhood watch programs, citizen patrols, organized community cleanup days, social events with local law enforcement, picnics, festivals and physical design. Neighborhood and crime prevention programs are most successful if there is active participation from both citizens and local resources. The more actively involved members are in the overall well-being of the community, the more successful the program will be at reducing crime. How do we organize neighborhood crime prevention? Talk to your neighbor. Communication of the issues and each other's concerns allows for further concrete steps to be taken. Assess what the community wants, accomplished through neighborhood crime prevention. Locate and identify local resources. The more resources that are available to a community, the more programs that can be implemented. Talk to local police about organizing community activities. See if local businesses are willing to donate time, money and or other resources. Seek out state and federal resources. Are there any funds or grants available to your community? Apply for them. Get together. Hold regular meetings where all citizens can suggest ideas and improvements. Communicate citizen ideas or concerns to local agencies, law enforcement, businesses, etc. Start small, identify 1 or 2 programs that are available, suitable and adequate for your neighborhood. It may be unrealistic and ultimately unsuccessful to implement a program that does not address the issues in your community. In a country like India, which is an example of a collective society, the neighbors and community play a very important role in crime prevention. It ranges from keeping a watch on your home or children when you are not out of your home, or preventing your children from indulging in bad habits and antisocial activities which may lead to indulge in criminal activities in future. In most villages and small towns, the neighbors and community are like an extended family, keeping a watch on the property and children. As most residents know each other, a new and suspicious person is easily noticed by the residents. Now let us talk about secondary crime prevention. Secondary crime prevention attempts to prevent crime by focusing on an at-risk offenders or potential opportunities that may foster criminal activity. The main tool used in secondary crime prevention is identification and prediction. There are many theoretical bases for the implementation of secondary crime prevention. Once we are able to identify potential places, people, situations or opportunities that are at risk for criminal activity, it may be possible to predict and prevent future criminal occurrence. By reducing the potential opportunities to commit crime, increasing the risks of the crime, and by minimizing the potential gain of the criminal act, it is more likely that the criminal will not engage in such behavior. Citizens can take individual steps to protect themselves from victimization. Organizing large groups for crime prevention may be very difficult at times. Certain programs like situational crime prevention allow citizens to individually participate in crime prevention. There are many techniques that are used in situational crime prevention. Situational crime prevention focuses on preventing a specific type of crime and criminal behavior. However, no one technique is guaranteed to prevent all crimes. Now I will discuss some techniques of situational crime prevention. First technique works towards reducing the opportunity to commit crime. The technique is target hardening. This technique makes it physically more difficult for the potential offender to engage in criminal activity. Installing deadbolt locks indoors, using steering wheel locks for cars, and putting iron bars on windows are a few examples of target hardening. The recent surge of computer crimes has made it increasingly necessary to address issues of privacy. Computer users can protect themselves from victimization by installing software that defends against potential intrusion by hackers and other criminals. Software that protects against computer viruses are a form of target hardening that is widely implemented. Certain techniques works towards increasing the risk associated with the crime. One technique which increases risk for criminals is formal surveillance. This technique is used by many companies and corporates. It can also be used in a residential environment. There are many ways to conduct formal surveillance. Some examples of formal surveillance include night desk attendants, security guards, security cameras, speeding cameras, and alarm systems. Potential criminals may be less likely to engage in illegal activity if they perceive a greater risk at being apprehended. Another technique which increases risk for criminals is natural surveillance. In Defensible Space 1972, Oscar Newman proposed natural surveillance as a technique of crime prevention through physical design. The physical space is designed in a manner in which legitimate users can monitor the activities that occur in that area. For example, by increasing street lighting, legitimate users can better see any unusual activity. This increases the exposure of any potential criminal behavior and increases the chance someone will be able to identify the criminal. Residential motion lights are an example of increased lighting. Physical surroundings may be conducive to the formation of crime. Criminals are more likely to offend in an area that they feel more confident in not getting caught. Therefore, may be easy access and exits to the location of the crime. Once the crime has been committed, the criminal knows he or she can escape with relative ease. One way to address this is to create speed bumps that would slow down a potential fleeing felon or to limit road access to the neighborhood. Another technique works towards reducing the potential rewards of the crime. This technique is denial of benefits. Reducing benefits of a criminal activity may deter the offender from committing the crime. Retail store owners who fear theft of merchandise have used this ink marketing technique of situational crime prevention. If the offender knows that the merchandise will be stained once he tries to illegally remove the tag, the monetary benefits of the crime have been removed. Car manufacturers have long ago designed faceless car stereo players. The idea is to reduce the potential reward of the criminal activity by removing the target of the crime. Another example of reducing potential reward is property identification. By marking and tagging one's property, the monetary gains the criminal anticipates to receive is reduced. If they are unable to dispose of the stolen property, it is useless to own them. Now let us talk about displacement. Crime displacement is the relocation of crime from one place, time, target, offense or tactic to another as a result of some crime prevention initiative. Spatial displacement is by far the most commonly recognized form, though. The other four are also frequently acknowledged by those studying crime prevention effects. Formally, the possible forms of displacement are: temporal, offenders change the time at which they commit crime. Spatial, offenders will switch from targets in one location to targets to another location. Target offenders change from one type of target to another. Tactical, offenders alter the methods used to carry out crime. And offenders switch from one form of crime to another. Overall, displacement is viewed as a negative consequence of crime prevention efforts, but in some cases it can still provide some benefits. Current thinking on crime displacement suggests that beneficial or benign displacement can occur when the harm produced by the displaced crime or problem behavior is less than what existed before the intervention. Specifically, benign displacement can occur in a variety of ways and is when the displaced crime is less serious, such as the shift to petty thefts from robbery, less impactful on the community, which can occur three ways. The concentration of crime is redistributed across a larger pool of victims, that is, relocating victimization from a small group of repeat victims. The crime is transferred away from more vulnerable groups of the population, such as children and the elderly. The crime is located to places where the community impact is less harmful. For example, a street drug or prostitution market relocates from a residential area to a remote area, which would reduce fear of crime or residential and business decay, or at the same time volume of crime disperses to a large area where the harm is less concentrated. Lower in volume. For instance, the target area may experience a reduction of 100 crimes post-response, but the displacement of the crime resulted in an increase of 50 crimes in the comparison area post-response. At worst, displacement can lead to more harmful consequences. This occurs when there is a shift to more serious offenses or to similar offenses that have more serious consequences. Referred to as malign displacement, it involves any situation where the relocation of crime makes matters worse. This could be an increase in the volume of crime at the relocated area, a shift to more serious crime types, the concentration of crime to a smaller group of victims, the relocation of crime to places where it has greater impact on the community, or the relocation of crime to more vulnerable groups of the population. Now let us talk about diffusion of crime. Control benefits. The opposite of crime displacement is diffusion of crime control benefits. Crime diffusion entails the reduction of crime for other improvements in areas or ways that are related to the targeted crime prevention efforts, but not targeted by the response itself. Though less recognized than displacement, diffusion is recorded in many research evaluations of crime prevention responses. Diffusion effects are referred in a variety of ways, including the bonus effect, the halo effect, the free rider effect, and the multiple effect. In cases where any degree of diffusion is observed, the benefit of any response effects experienced in the targeted area are amplified as improvements were gained without expending resources in those areas. As with displacement, diffusion of benefits can occur in many forms. Spatial and target diffusion occurs when areas or other crime targets near the intervention zone also experience a reduction in crime. Temporal diffusion occurs when other time periods experience a reduction in crime even though the intervention was not applied during those times. Crime type diffusion occurs when other crime types are prevented even though they were not targeted by the intervention. For instance, a project targeting commercial burglary may also achieve an added reduction in shoplifting. A crime prevention strategy might not only have a direct impact on the crime and location that is being targeted, but also have other positive and negative consequences. Diffusion of benefits occurs when a crime prevention initiative has other positive outcomes. These might include preventing other crimes not directly targeted. If boom gates were installed in a shopping center car park to prevent motor vehicle theft, but it was also found that their installation had caused a reduction in stealing from motor vehicles, then in the absence of other strategies having affected this change, the boom gates might have caused this diffusion of benefits. In contrast to the diffusion of benefits, a crime prevention initiative might also cause displacement. For example, access control measures, that is entry phones installed in a housing complex, might cause displacement of break, enter and steal offences into a neighbouring housing complex without entry phone technology. This form of displacement is known as geographical displacement, as the same crime is being committed in another area due to the original crime prevention initiative. There are generally 5 potential types of displacement and diffusion of benefits. These are illustrated. Now let us talk about the various types of diffusion and displacement given by Clark and Eck in geographical type. The offense occurs elsewhere. Diffusion occurs when there is reduction in target and surrounding areas. Displacement occurs when criminals switch to another location to offend. In temporal type, the offense occurs at a different time. Diffusion occurs when offense is reduced at other times. Displacement occurs when offense is committed at other times. In target type, the offender selects a different target. Diffusion occurs when various items protected rather than just one protected. Diffusion occurs when other items are stolen. In tactical type, the offender goes about committing the offense differently. Diffusion occurs when other tactics are blocked. Displacement occurs when other tactics are used to achieve same result. In crime type, the offender is dissuaded from the original offense and elects to commit another offense. Diffusion occurs when other crime types also prevented. Displacement occurs when other crimes committed instead. By way of illustrating it, if security guards are deployed at a car park known for high rates of motor vehicle theft, then geographical displacement will occur if rates of motor vehicle theft increase at neighbouring car parks. Temporal displacement will occur if the thefts increase during daylight hours as opposed to evenings when the security guards are deployed. Target displacement occurs if bicycles are stolen rather than cars, while tactical displacement might include the apprehension of the guards while cars are stolen. Finally, crime type displacement would involve a rise in break, enter and steals due to the offenders electing to commit different crimes. Both diffusion of benefits and displacement should be considered during the formulation of crime prevention strategies. Often data will be used to captured prior to the implementation of a crime prevention initiative to determine if diffusion of benefits and or displacement occurs. One of the most common criticisms of problem-oriented policing efforts is that crime will simply relocate to other times and places since the root causes of crime were not addressed or because offenders may remain on the streets after certain crime opportunities are reduced. This phenomenon called crime displacement has important implications for many problem-oriented policing projects. At the extreme, widespread displacement stands to undermine the effects of your project. More often, however, crime displacement is not total and is inconsequential if it does occur. Most claims of displacement are based on suppositions unsupported by empirical evidence. The majority of problem-oriented policing projects fail to investigate displacement. Officers are generally pleased to achieve a crime reduction in the targeted area and may be less concerned if crime is displaced outside their jurisdiction. Yet, addressing and understanding potential displacement effects can help ensure the effectiveness of problem-oriented policing projects, because the presence of extensive displacement threatens to undo any successes. Determining the extent of displacement or lack thereof will also assist in defending results to critics. This guide serves as an introduction to crime displacement, describing the concept, the extent to which it occurs, and why it may or may not happen. It discusses the nature of displacement and its varieties, including where displaced crime is most likely to go and what it might look like. This guide describes displaced crime to ensure your project success. Finally, it describes methods for measuring and analyzing displacement that can be used to determine overall effectiveness of problem-oriented policing. It is intended to assist those engaged in problem-solving activities, including line officers, crime analysts, police executives, and community development professionals. Now let us talk about fear of crime. What is the fear of crime? We can define fear as an emotional reaction characterized by a sense of danger and anxiety. We restrict our definition to the sense of danger and anxiety produced by the threat of physical harm. Furthermore, to constitute fear of crime, the fear must be elicited by perceived cues in the environment that relate to some aspect of crime for the person. By linking fear to potential physical harm, we do two things. First, it forces us to differentiate the reaction elicited by the potential of property loss from the reaction elicited by the potential of physical harm. The former is more cerebral and calculating and might be described as worry, while the latter is more autonomic and emotional. Certainly, it seems reasonable to assume that the internal state of a person who remembers at 3 am that his 10-speed bicycle has been left outside unlocked is different than the internal state of a person who finds himself alone on a dark city side street at 3 am. Fear of crime has become an important issue of public concern, a problem which distracts the quality of life and which adversely affects social and economic well-being. Reducing the fear of crime and crime itself is a challenge faced by all law enforcement agencies. The nature of crime is sufficiently complex that no one agency of government can assume sole responsibility for it. While some of the examples of promising strategies for fear reduction noted above are essentially police activities, others were related to the basic functions of local government, community welfare agencies, and telecommunications authorized. Effective implementation of fear reduction programs will depend essentially on collaboration between varieties of relevant institutions. Among the challenges faced by the police today is to develop crime prevention and fear reduction programs and to evaluate these programs rigorously and objectively. By discarding those programs which do not succeed and by refining and expanding those which do, police services can make an important contribution to crime prevention and fear reduction. But as we have seen, many factors relating to crime prevention lie beyond the immediate purview of police. The greater degree of fear expressed by women can in time be reduced by broader public policies which provide them with equal economic opportunities, take violence against women seriously, and reduce women's vulnerability to harassment. Now to conclude, physical manifestations of the quality of neighborhood life can be enhanced by concerted efforts by government, especially local government, nor indeed can the task be left to the government alone. Individuals must bear significant responsibility for taking basic crime prevention precautions, including looking after their neighbors and caring for their neighborhoods. Crime prevention can only be successful with the involvement of various stakeholders, in a coordinated and effective manner. This in turn will reduce the fear of crime among the general public. Thank you.